Stocks clock gains with the advances significantly outpacing the declines. Auto and realty are the big gainers today, even as metals and IT decline.
M&M launches an upgraded and feature-rich version of XUV 300 called the XUV 3XO. The attractive pricing of the product, the company hopes, will help it climb from number 5 to number 1 or number 2 in the sizable compact SUV segment.
Jana Small Finance Bank and Vesuvius India jump on reporting strong numbers, while J&K India sees sharp gains on listing, but PI Industries slips on fears of rising Chinese competition.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi tells Network 18 that after building confidence and aspirations in India in his second term, he now aims to make India the third largest economy in the world in his third term.
Hello and welcome. You've tuned into Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Podar, and with me as always is Sonia Shenoy. So Sonia, there is green on the screen as it's a truncated week, and still the market is roaring. Actually, it's in good shape, 0.4% up in trade. In fact, let's take a look at where the overall market momentum is building. Less than 100 points gain on Nifty 50, holding on to that 22,700 mark. Sensex too has gained about 275 points. When we look at Bank Nifty, which remember yesterday's momentum compared it to today's, it's 0.2% up in trade, underperformance to the key indices, and mid-cap universe that is gaining the maximum bit, 0.6% up in trade, and that's also aiding the overall market breadth and the advanced decline ratio. And also not to forget that big boy Reliance Industries has been contributing 2 days since its results, and it has been gaining. That heavyweight has additions on the market contribution. And on my screen, top gainer today is Mahindra and Mahindra, over 4%, almost 5% up in trade, Sonia.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a big story of the day, right? The move that we've seen on M&M. But as you rightly pointed out, it's a very, very strong market that we have on our hand. It's an uptrending market. And if you notice what's happened in the last 10-15 days, the Nifty has really climbed substantially from the lows that we hit last week. And from the 18th of April lows, actually, of 21,800, the Nifty is back at 22,740. And suffice to say that this market is perhaps pricing in a stronger, NDA victory in the elections this time, and a stronger mandate at the center, and that's why this kind of move that you're seeing on the index at the moment. So very interesting moves really coming into the market right now. Let's talk about individual stocks as well. M&M is the stock that we're looking at. As we've been telling you ad nauseum, this is a big move on M&M this afternoon rather. It's a fresh 52-week high that M&M is sitting on. It's launched a facelift of the XUV 300, which is named XUV 3XO. Now, the best part about this new launch is the pricing. It's launched at a very attractive price point of 7 lakhs starting and goes all the way to about 15 lakhs. M&M has invested 650 crores for this product. The bookings will open on the 15th of May, on the 15th, and will close on the 26th of May. With this launch, M&M is targeting a big recovery in the utility vehicle market share. It lost a bit of market share in FY24, so it's targeting sort of getting it back above that 16-17%. The compact SUV segment has been growing, by leaps and bounds. It's now 50% of the overall UV market. The top players in this space are Tata Motors with a 28% market share, followed by Maruti at 26%. Then you have M&M, which is around 16-17%, and Hyundai, and then Kia. So there's lots of work that M&M has to do in order to get to the number 1 spot. Apart from that, if you look at what brokerages are saying, right, brokerages are quite bullish. Investec says M&M is their top pick in the auto OEM space because of the strong earnings. They reiterate a buy. While if you look at Nomura maintains M&M as their top pick in the OEM space as well. They say that the new product should continue to drive re-rating, and at 10.5 times FY26 EV to EBITDA, they are below peers, which are at about 15 odd times or so. So interesting moves coming in there from M&M. But let's also tell you about what the company had to say, as my colleague Danish Anand spoke to the Executive Director and CEO Rajesh Jejurikar about the new launch. Listen in.
We've had 3 successful SUV launches over the last 4 years. This has helped us to become the number 1 SUV player in the country by revenue market share and the number 2 by volumes. But there is one part of the SUV segment where we haven't been as successful, and that is really 25% of the SUV market, which is the compact monocoque segment. That is about 600,000 out of the 25 lakh segment of SUVs. In that segment, we are number 5 player. In the next 2 to 3 years, we would want to be number 1 or number 2 in this segment. The 3XO, which we've launched today, is a disruptor designed to take us from 5 to 1 or 2. We've hence tried to excel in every dimension. We've called it 6 pillars, which are the 6 key, the design, the space, the ride, the drive, the safety, and of course all the tech that goes with the product. So there are many segment firsts with this product, and we price them very aggressively to enable us to get growth, grow the category, and also to get market share.
Right. Sir, like you mentioned that this is likely going to be a game changer for you in the C segment of the SUVs. If you talk about the entire pricing range, we've seen that it is very elaborate. It starts from 7.49 lakh rupees and goes up till 13 lakh rupees. So within these segments, which segment do you think is going to cater to the mass market segment in the country?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, Danish, and that's why we've done this very complex, if we may use that word, varianting, so that we're able to appeal to different segments. The 7.49 lakh variant is really the entry-level MX-1, and that's for first-time buyers of SUVs to really give them a very good product, SUV stands, safety, all of that at a very good price, which is 7.49. We've also created a very interesting variant, which is the gasoline automatic transmission, which we priced at less than 10 lakhs. Now, that can be a segment creator because, many people want to buy an automatic transmission in their car, but it's way too expensive. So we've created a very good gasoline automatic transmission at 9.99. At the higher end of the market, we're actually looking at market creation.
All right, so that was all about Mahindra and Mahindra, the top Nifty gainer today, almost 5% gain in trade at the moment. Moving on, then the shares of Manappuram Finance surge in trade today after SEBI approves the IPO of the company's subsidiary Ashirvad Microfinance. In fact, our colleague Abhishek joins in with all the details of this IPO and what it means for the parent company. Tell us, Abhishek.
Well, in Jan of 2024, SEBI had put the IPO of Ashirvad MFI under abeyance. So now they have given a clearance with respect to the IPO of Ashirvad Microfinance. So as of 9 months FY24, the NI growth was about 67.5% YOY, and the PAT growth was almost 200% on a YOY basis. For Q3 FY24, the NI growth was about 63.2% YOY and 13.5% sequentially. PAT growth was 80.2% YOY and about 7.5% sequentially. They are adequately capitalized at 23.2% as of 9 months FY24. With respect to the IPO details, it's a rupees 1,500 crore of IPO, which consists of only fresh issues. So there is no offer for sale, and Manappuram may not like to monetize their stake in the company. But however, this will add on to SOTP for Manappuram as well. So private placement may be of about rupees 300 crore, and the banks, the book running lead managers are JM Financial, Kotak Mahindra Capital, Nomura as well as SBI Capital to the issue. Back to you.
Okay, and shifting focus to the earnings, Jana Small Finance Bank is zooming in trade after they reported a strong set of numbers. Earlier today, we spoke to Ajay Kanwal, who is the Managing Director and CEO of the company, to get his outlook for FY25. Listen in to what he had to say.
I would be comfortable doing the 20% number as a forward guidance, which what we put in our analyst presentation, which has gone live on the web last evening. We would do a PAT of 30 to 40% growth. That's what we would expect. Importantly is ROA around 2, ROE around 20. So fundamentally, even if I grow not 20, but I grow 19, that's my preference. But I really want to make sure it is secured assets and we maintain ROA and ROE. The asset growth has been 25%. Secured assets have reached 60%. Now, both are relevant because we as a bank began from a microfinance background 6 years ago, and now we moved to 60%. That will be a secular growth for next year also. 6 years ago, when we started this transition, we have turned 60% secured. And so my current NIM is already baked in with 60% secured.
Yes.
It's at 8%.
Correct.
And 8% also has an increase of cost of funds during last year, which has also been high. So, but if you take last year's NIM was 7.8, we are closing this year at 8.
Okay.
So we have managed to maintain NIMs.
Yes.
That's fine.
All right, let's talk about Nestle then. Nestle India's chairman and managing director Suresh Narayanan has responded to the controversy regarding the added sugar in baby food products. In fact, speaking to our colleague Manglam Malu, he added that the company is compliant with the law of the land and also claimed that added sugar has been reduced by 30% over the last 5 years, and the company is testing zero sugar variants for infant food in India. Listen in.
They have indicated to us that they would like to pick samples of some of our products. Indeed, this is being picked up across manufacturers. So we wish to clarify that this is not just Nestle. There are different manufacturers. Their products will be picked up for analysis, whatever analysis that FSSAI chooses to do, and we respect that. Now, this added sugar, we have reduced it by 30% over the last 5 years. 2 more points. Point number 2, there are products in Europe and products in Asia which have both no added sugar and added sugar. The efficacy of the recipe based on local regulatory conditions and based on local habits determines the quantum of sugar that the product contains.
Okay, let's take a short commercial break. Then up next, we'll get you excerpts from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's exclusive interview to News 18. Do stay tuned in. Welcome back to Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Moving on to a mega exclusive News 18 interview. Prime Minister Narendra Modi sat down with Group Editor-in-Chief Rahul Joshi and News 18's Vilas Bade and Hari Prasad to discuss several issues which are on the agenda this election season. The Prime Minister rubbished allegations that central agencies were being misused against the opposition parties to win elections. He said elections cannot be fixed even for a municipality in India. Listen into excerpts from that interview.
ऑपोजिशन की सारी पार्टीज़, राहुल गांधी, कांग्रेस, सब ये कहते हैं कि मोदी जी ये जो है मैच फिक्सिंग कर रहे हैं इस चुनाव पर। उन्होंने कहा है कि ईडी, सीबीआई और ईवीएम के बिना आप चुनाव नहीं जीत सकते। क्या कहेंगे आप?
ईवीएम का जवाब तो देश की सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने दे दिया है और 2014 में इनके पास ईडी थी, इनके पास सीबीआई थी, तो हार क्यों गए भाई? मेरे होम मिनिस्टर तक को जेल में डाल दिया था, तो हार क्यों तो गए वो? अगर ईडी सीबीआई से चुनाव जीते जाते तो ईडी सीबीआई का काम तो इतने सालों तक कांग्रेस ने किया है, वो जीत जाते हैं जी। और इतना बड़ा देश एक म्यूनसिपैलिटी का चुनाव फिक्स नहीं कर सकते हो भाई, जरा करके देखो, ये संभव होता है क्या फिक्सिंग? क्या दुनिया को मूर्ख बना। लेकिन दुख इस बात का है कि ऐसी बातें करने वालों को आप मीडिया के लोग उनको पूछने के बजाय हमको पूछते हो।
मोदी जी थोड़ा सा,
लेकिन इसमें एक बात चौकस है
जी,
मैं मानता हूं पिछले कई दिनों से इंडिया अलायंस के लोग इतने निराश हो चुके हैं कि अभी उनको बहाने ढूंढना बहुत जरूरी बन गया है, क्योंकि पराजय के बाद भी लोगों के सामने जाने के लिए उनको इसलिए मैं समझता हूँ शायद वो अभी से ये सारे तर्क ढूंढ रहे हैं कि पराजय के तर्क क्या होंगे, शायद उसी की उनकी इंटरनल एक्सरसाइज है ये।
All right, then let's get you some courtroom updates for now. In fact, the Supreme Court exempted Yoga Guru Ramdev from personal appearance for the next hearing in the misleading advertisements case. Additionally, the Uttarakhand State Licensing Authority apologized to the Supreme Court for non-compliance. In fact, my colleague Ashmit Kumar has been tracking all the developments very, very closely from the courtrooms, gets us all the details. Tell us, Ashmit.
Well, Baba Ramdev as well as Patanjali Ayurved again in focus. The contempt hearing was heard just a few moments back in the Supreme Court right behind me. What's important is that there was a second round of apology ads that were issued by Baba Ramdev as well as Patanjali Ayurved. Those second round of ads, which were significantly larger than the first round of ads, were displayed, were shown to the apex court. And this is something that was welcomed by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that this is a welcome change. These advertisements that have been published, they mention not just Patanjali Ayurved like the first advertisement, but also mention Baba Ramdev as seen apologizing to the public. These ads were issued in national dailies, and this is something that the apex court has welcomed, saying that this is a marked difference from the first advertisement that was put out, which was more akin to a small classified ad. Now, what's important is that on the back of all of this, some relief has come Baba Ramdev's way. Mukul Rahatgi, the counsel appearing for Baba Ramdev, had sought for exemption from personal appearance. Baba Ramdev, keep in mind, has been appearing in person in all these contempt proceedings. He was here before the apex court as well just a few moments back. He has now been exempted. Baba Ramdev has now been exempted from a personal appearance for the next date of hearing. So when the next hearing happens here, in this case, the contempt case, Baba Ramdev will not have to appear before the top court of the country. But at the same time, important to mention that Supreme Court points out that this is only a one-time measure for now. So the interim relief only for the next hearing, no personal exemption, no personal hearing required for Baba Ramdev. That's one side of the story. The other, of course, is the apex court coming down hard on the state licensing authorities for lack of action. Now, it is in response to that that we find that the state licensing authority for the state of Uttarakhand submitted an affidavit before the top court of the country where they've clarified that they've initiated taking action against Baba Ramdev and Patanjali Ayurved. One, they point out that a criminal complaint is to be filed against Baba Ramdev as well as Patanjali Ayurved. The process for that has been initiated by the state licensing authority. Not just that, the SLA also clarified before the top court that the manufacturing license for as many as 14 products of Patanjali Ayurved has now also been suspended. This suspension is in effect for a 3-month period, subject to appeal, but nonetheless, action taken by the SLA, manufacturing license being suspended by the Uttarakhand State Licensing Authority. This again is something that was welcomed by the apex court, but very specific pointed questions were asked of the officers of the State Licensing Authority, why it took them such a long time to spring into action. Could no action have been taken without the reprimand coming from the top court of the country? Why is the Supreme Court's intervention required for the state licensing officers to do their job, to do their duties? And this is something that the state licensing authority officers will now have to come back on, will have to clarify on affidavits. So clearly, the apex court coming down hard on Patanjali Ayurved, exempting Baba Ramdev from a personal appearance for the next date of hearing, but nonetheless asking questions of the state licensing authorities why action against him wasn't taken earlier. Back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Ashmit. Well, let's move on now and get you some important poll updates. The JD SMP Prajwal Revanna, who was also the NDA candidate from Karnataka's Hassan, finds himself at the epicenter of a sex scandal days after alleged sexual assault videos involving him went viral. The police has filed an FIR against him and his father, MLA HD Revanna, on allegations of criminal intimidation and sexual harassment. Remember, Prajwal is the grandson of the former Prime Minister Deve Gowda and the nephew of JDS leader Kumaraswamy. The Karnataka government has ordered an SIT probe into the alleged sex videos. Meanwhile, the Janata Dal Secular has suspended Prajwal Nigam from the party, while the National Commission for Women has taken a suo moto cognizance of the case and has written a letter to the Karnataka State DGP.
All right, and moving on to some more updates coming in today. The Congress candidate from Indore, Akshay Kanti Bam, has withdrawn his nomination weeks ahead of polling, in fact, giving the BJP a virtual walkover in the constituency. Now, a tweet by senior BJP leader Kailash Vijayvargiya hinted that Akshay had joined the BJP. Indore will go to polls on May 13th.
Okay, let's slip into a short break now. When we return, ahead of the Federal Reserve's decision, we'll get you the findings of the CNBC Fed survey and the key expectations on the other side. Stay tuned.
You're watching Business Lunch, and let's focus on the global events today. And the Federal Reserve is all set to release its interest rate decision tomorrow. Now, hopes for a summer rate cut have largely faded after recent data has shown stubbornly sticky inflation and also resilient growth. Now, CNBC's Steve Leisman breaks down the results from CNBC's latest Fed survey and what are we expecting. Steve.
The April CNBC Fed survey showing forecasters after last week's numbers ratcheting up their outlook for Q2 growth and for 2024 inflation. We've seen repeated growth upgrades, but this is one of the most substantial inflation boosts to the outlook we've seen in more than a year. After weaker than expected GDP report last week, but strong consumer spending, the 29 respondents boosted second quarter real GDP to 2.1 from 1.4%. Pretty remarkable increase, transferring the miss essentially from Q1 into growth for Q2. Inflation is now seen ending the year above 3%, up from 2.7% in the prior survey. That number is actually in line with the Fed's forecast for core PCE for the full year at 2.6%. But it's still above target and assumes a CPI that usually runs about a half a point hotter than the PCE. About half of respondents say the recent run of higher inflation is just a blip, but another half say it could be part of a long-term stall in inflation progress that will keep inflation stuck around 3% if the Fed doesn't act. Barry Knapp from Ironside's Macroeconomics writes, inflation is likely to run above target until and unless there is fiscal policy tightening. And Richard Bernstein says few have yet to consider the secular inflation pressures of deglobalization. It seems unlikely we'll ever return to secular 2% inflation without a sustained period of subpar growth. Unemployment is seen rising steadily from a current rate of 3.8% to 4.1% by year end and 4.3% by next year. The economy will have gotten off cheap, and that would be a soft landing if that's all there is in terms of the rise in unemployment. Meanwhile, 50% of respondents say the Fed cannot hit its inflation target without growth running below potential and the unemployment rate rising at least by a half a point. How much the economy, or if the economy, has to weaken for the Fed to hit its 2% inflation target is one of the pressing questions right now at the central bank.
Okay, with that, it is curtains down on this edition of Business Lunch. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Midcap Radar comes up next.